This was good news for Pixen. Though perhaps not the greatest news for the Flame Atronach, which was vanquished almost immediately. Pixen Pooks readied his spell, prepared to magic into existence another Flame Atronach. He gathered some potions and drank. And ran. He casted his mighty spells. Grok took a huge barrage of spells. His health was weakening, but he still had much strength in him. Giants tend to do so. Grok was momentarily stunned by the Atronach's barrage, and so the opportunistic Pixen Pooks took this opportunity to drink. He restored his magicka and let loose a mighty barrage of flame. The giant Grok was becoming weaker by the second. Knowing this, Pixen Pooks continued to drink, exhausting his entire supply of magicka potions. It appeared that Grok was running, but it was merely a fake-out, hoping that Pixen Pooks would run directly into his line of fire. But Pixen Pooks was cleverer than that. Grok began to weaken, and so he took out his sword and slew the beast. He took the pelt, and the gold, and all of the giant's other goods. But he did not feel good about it. Grok was a giant willing to trade and barter with mortals. Well, giants are mortal, but giants and citizens of Skyrim do not frequently trade in such a way. And knowing that he'd slain perhaps a rather civil giant made him feel bad. He was not the heroic Dovahkiin at this time. He was a man who had cavorted with a mysterious stranger, kidnapped a man's goat, and now killed the creature whom he sold it to. It was all less than glamorous. Still, he made his way back to Rorikstead, knowing that the farmer would be happy to see his prized goat returned to him. He was wet and cold from the rain, and looking forward to resting, after having had the knowledge of where Sanguine and the staff was now. The farm was before him. Gleda the goat was behind him. Soon everything was going to be made right. Gleda the goat found herself troubled by a small stone, but eventually they worked their troubles out. Gleda was returned.
You talked to Reldith yet? She's like a mother to me.
Ennis seemed to have forgotten briefly about their transaction.
You here from the city? I visit Whiterun from time to time, mostly to make deals.
Here is your goat. Now can you help me retrace my steps?
Gleda! I've not a scratch on her. Happy day! I still can't figure out why you stole her. You left a note explaining it, but half of it was gibberish and the rest had mead spilled on it. Only bit I could make out was repaying Isolde in Whiterun, and even that's mostly scribbles. Guess you could try there.
And so Pixen Pooks, familiar with Isolde, she was a merchant in Whiterun, or at least was training to become a merchant. He was tired, but he ached to solve this mystery. And so without pause, he set off into the dark and drizzly night. It was still raining when Pixen Pooks returned to Whiterun. He was damp to the bone and freezing cold, but he had to hear the answers. The answer must be heard among the incessant chatter.
So, you're finally back. Look, I've been patient, but you still owe me.
Okay, how much do I owe you?
It's not about the money, really. I wouldn't have given you the wedding ring on credit if you weren't so obviously in love. But if there isn't going to be a wedding, the least you can do is give the ring back. That was one of my best pieces.
Do you know what I did with it?
You went right out to give it to your fiancée. Don't you even remember where you left her? And after you told me that sweet story of how you met in Witchmist Grove, I can see why she left you.
I just need to get to the wedding, please.
I'm sure your bride-to-be will tell you when and where the ceremony will be. If she still wants to marry you when you tell her you can't afford the ring.
What was that story about my fiancé?
How could you forget? It was the sweetest story I'd ever heard. You met at the full moon, under the biggest tree in Witchmist Grove, surrounded by fireflies. It was straight out of a storybook. Farewell.
And to think I was going...
So our hero Pixen Pooks suddenly found himself with another long journey ahead.
Feed you cabbages and apples again.
He was tired. He really wanted to wait until the rain abated, but his curiosity of the night with Sanguine was far too great. With the storm abated but the weather no more pleasant, Pixen Pooks found himself in Witchmist Grove, amidst a dark and misty swampland. The mists were chilling to the bone, and he felt apprehensive at what he may find. Before him he saw a hagraven. He carefully approached. Hearing her vile breathing, she approached him slowly. He was unsure of what was to follow.
Darling, I've been waiting for you to return, to consummate our love.
Actually, I was hoping to get the ring back.
What? You want it for that hussy Esmeralda with the dark feathers, don't you? I won't let her have you.
Pixen Pooks suddenly found himself under attack. Shouting to stun her momentarily, he gathered his wits and prepared to attack. His apparent fiancée Moira was angry. Fortunately, the Atronach kept her attentions, and so her powerful fire magic was no longer a threat. She died soon enough. Pixen Pooks took the wedding ring and stared down upon the creature he almost married. How could he have gotten himself into such a state? What had he and Sanguine done that night? The more of the pieces of the puzzle he unlocked, the more curious he became. Of course, during all of this, his natural Khajiit urges to search and loot took precedence. Wondering if he could get these taproots down, he found himself disappointed. Nevertheless, he looked upon the hut that either belonged to his fiancée or someone she had slaughtered not too long ago. The latter seemed most likely, although the collection of taproots implied that she'd been here for a while. All in all, he was sickened. Another creature had died because of his night with Sanguine, and he was no closer to figuring out just who or what that strange man was. Eager to get out of the cold, chilly, misty lands, he set off to return to Whiterun.